Hello and welcome to the session on telecommunication and IT infrastructure acquisition tips and tools. My name is Micah Goodwin. I'm a telecom IT manager in the Federal Acquisition Service. My group provides technical and pricing support to the agencies to assist them in meeting their networking needs. And we also provide program-wide analytics. So my colleagues with me today, Lauren Smith and Chris Urie, we are going to provide an overview of a set of tools that provide enormous assistance to agencies in meeting their needs for procuring and modernizing their telecom IT networks using the EIS contracts or the Enterprise Infrastructure Solution contracts. So first, I want to give an introduction to EIS. It's a set of contracts that offer a comprehensive set of telecom services that provide practically all the technologies needed to meet current requirements, but also importantly, how to modernize your network. It's a 15-year contract, 5-year base plus 2 5-year options. There's about 30 services provided that provide domestic and international coverage and includes transport such as IP, MPLS, Ethernet technologies, access, cloud service, voice, managed services such as security, wireless, satellite, equipment, labor, and even more than that. The contract has 9 vendors with highly competitive prices, and with a contract structure that allows customers to leverage deeper discounts than what's on the contract, and also allows for customization to meet unique requirements of the agency. So our focus today is to provide an overview of the EIS tools listed here. These will support your network modernization throughout the acquisition and operational life cycles. These tools are unique to EIS and will greatly enhance the EIS experience. I will be going over the capabilities of the pricers. My colleague Lauren Smith will provide an overview on the tool called Connexus, which is a sophisticated tool for ordering, capturing inventory, billing, and much more. Chris Urie is another colleague who will provide an overview of the Solicitation Assist tool, or SAT tool, which is a very useful tool that can quickly incorporate agencies' requirements through a variety of templates and create a near complete solicitation within often a session. During the FAST 2020 conference, we will be demonstrating and providing hands-on training on these tools in the same room as the briefing. We strongly encourage you to attend these to see these tools in action. So I'm going to go over the pricers. So I'm going to first go over the benefits, and then I'm going to be showing some screenshots of the tool. You can think about these benefits as we go through those screenshots. You know, there's millions of price points actually on the contract, given 30 services and the geography and 9 vendors. But this tool puts at your fingertips quite quickly all those prices where you can see comparisons across all the vendors. Can, of course, inform your market research. We also have a important tool called the inventory or bulk pricer that allows you to load up your inventory or a future scenario. You load up those transactions in data, and the pricer will provide you with all those elements priced out with some standard reports. Also, as I said, you can do modern solutions, scenarios, things like that. And it allows you to evaluate or check price quotes you receive from the vendors. And sort of a side benefit of the public pricer that I'll introduce is that it's available to everyone, and the vendors actually will look at the prices of their competitors on there. Current year prices are available, and they will often adjust their prices downwards if they see that they're not competitive. So later on, we're going to show you how to access these pricers. This is the first screen that you'll see in the pricer when you click on tools, and you can actually see that it's a suite of tools that will provide self-service and something that you can rely on throughout your network's life cycle with your experience on EIS. So I'm going to briefly go through most of these items here. So as I mentioned, there are many services, and there's 9 vendors, and the availability of the services from the vendors and where those services are offered does vary. And so this tool allows you to put in addresses, enter addresses, and you can see quickly whether a service is offered there and by which vendor. And you can also have the ability to load up more than one address. This provides a lot of convenience in finding out who's offering, who can serve your current locations. So this is another way to find out what has been awarded, and that's by these geographical areas. In EIS, we have something called Core-Based Statistical Areas, CBSAs. And these are basically groups of counties that have been blocked together. And that's how coverage is offered under EIS domestically. And this is a way to find out who's offering what services at those particular geographical areas. Additionally, the EIS contract, of course, it's a living contract. There are modifications to it. So available through the pricer, you can look at the contract itself, but also you can look at the modifications that have occurred over time. So vendors are adding services or they're adding coverage. That will be found here. And you will have a description of the modification itself and the CLINs and tables that accompany that mod. It's easily accessible here. If a vendor lowers prices on the contract, that will appear here, and you can open up the modification and review that. This is the unit pricer. This is one of the core features of the pricer, and this is where you can either put in a CLIN if you know the CLIN number, or you can do searches with keywords to look up CLINs, find out their prices, and it will display the prices along with all the vendors side by side, so you can easily compare them. And it also provides some hints or suggestions to find associated CLINs with that. So it helps you in pricing out things. It's a step-by-step process, and it walks you through it, and then provides those comparisons, which are very helpful. So we have what we call the bulk or the inventory pricer, and I mentioned the benefits of this before. This is where instead of inputting CLINs or searching one by one, they actually create a file. This would be a comma-separated value file, a CSV file, which you can create in Excel or other software and upload it. And then when you press a button, and the pricer will actually calculate that entire inventory for you and provide the prices and standard reports for that. So this has a lot of applications, from doing scenarios or trying to figure out forecasts or budget prices. Very useful for that. We also provide for each of the services on EIS these very helpful guides. These service guides will describe the service for you. It'll provide some of the technical specs, and it's all in a concise written format. It also provides you pricing basics, how to structure the prices, and examples, and with actual claims there. It's a great resource to learn more about the EIS services, and you'll get an idea how they can apply to your requirements through these service guides. So that's another very helpful item that is available there. So this is a summary of basically of the pricers. So we have a public pricer. This one is available to anyone, and we provide the link down in the first box there. No registration is required, and as I said previously, some of our heavy users are vendors themselves, because they like to look at their competition and what they're using. One of the restrictions or limitations of the public pricer is that it only shows current year prices, does not show future or out year prices. Those are proprietary. We move to the right there with the agency pricer. That provides all the prices, including the future year prices. But that's restricted to agency users. And there is a method that's described here in how you get access to that. And it's only the agency pricer that has that ability to do bulk loads or inventory pricing that I mentioned earlier. That's one of its other capabilities that's different than the public pricer. Now, there is additional training besides what you can get at the conference. So there's user guides that are available with the pricer. Those are easily found. There's a help desk number with the pricers. And you can also work with your agency manager to set up live training, either remotely or in person if necessary. I do want to emphasize again, to learn more about the pricer, I highly recommend going to a demo and hands-on training that's offered in the same room as this briefing is given to learn more about this. I will now turn over the briefing to Lawrence Smith to provide an overview of Connexus and its powerful capabilities.
Welcome. This is Lawrence Smith. I am an architect and system owner of the Connexus application, and I'm excited to be able to share with you today the Connexus application. What is Connexus? Connexus was developed for the users by the users. And we got started many years ago in early 2013. We started asking all of our current telecom users of our existing systems. Some agencies had their own systems, and we asked them if they were king or queen of the day, what would they wish for? And we took all of this data from users, all of their opportunities to improve a process, and we then meshed them together, and then the agencies voted on what would benefit them. And it came up with a roadmap of different activities and modules, and I'll be going through them here in a second. But it's really important that to note that the system was built around the users and with the vendors in mind. It was a community effort. It was not solely done in a shell and then pushed out to everybody. The important part is, how does it work? The principle of Connexus is automation as much as possible. Obviously, by laws, people have to approve things. Those are still manual. You still have to go in and approve it. But the system will make logical recommendations, and it will tell you why it's making those recommendations. And a user can override those recommendations or go with those recommendations or approve those recommendations. The main part of how it communicates is there's electronic feeds between different systems. For example, everything that Micah just covered, there's electronic feeds from that application into Connexus. So Connexus sees all the awarded pricing on the contract, current and future, as well as the data that comes from the vendors. So there's system feeds that go from Connexus to and from the vendors. There we have tax vendors, telecom vendors. We exchange everything electronically, so we don't have to print something out. We don't have to sign it. We don't have to email it. You just go in the system and you put in there what you're wanting, and the system takes care of it and checks to make sure everything is correct during the life cycle of it. Currently, the Connexus supports the EIS vehicle, and there are 9 vendors under that, but it is not solely designed to only support one application. When we built it, we kept it flexible to support other contract vehicles. And you're probably wondering, why do I need this? Why do I care? The main benefit of Connexus is it is a shared system. The agencies use it. There is no additional fee unless you want something specific for your agency developed. But all the functions that are currently there are there for any agency to use. We have done some research that indicates that a light type system would be about 2% of the annual revenue of what is processing. So GSA thought instead of everybody paying for all these systems, that it's probably better that we create one that all agencies can use. So this system was built for the users and by the users. It's not only a cost savings on that an agency does not have to bring in a telecom expense management system. There's much more to it. There's many components of Connexus. There's service ordering. Notice that that's not task orders, that's service orders. It's executing items off of a task order. It maintains inventory, has billing capabilities, financial and reporting, and I'm going to go through each one of those with you. Service ordering is where you're executing. I want to buy a circuit. I want to buy a private line, or think of it similar as I want to buy a chair. So a user can go into Connexus and create an order, a service order in Connexus, and transmit that order to a contractor. And the contractor then electronically would say, I acknowledge receipt. The contractor then does an electronically acceptance or rejection of that order. If it's an acceptance, so the vendor starts supplying, will provision and supply that product. If they reject it, it goes back to the user saying, hey, we rejected it, and this is why we're rejecting it. So now the agency can make those adjustments or changes and resubmit it to the contractor. And why is this important? Because now things get lost in email. Years later, after somebody leaves an organization, an order was placed via email from somebody's email, and now that person's long gone, and nobody knew how it was originally ordered or why it's ordered. In telecommunication, some of these services stay in service for 10 years, 15 years. So it's real important to maintain the original information of how it was procured and why it was procured. So Connexus focuses on maintaining that data, that fluid data. And then when the contractor even provides back a notice after they accept it and they provision it, they're providing back a status saying, we're going to deliver estimated on X date. And that's telling the agency, be prepared, you're going to need to turn up this service in the near future by this date. And then they provide a completion record saying, we completed it, we delivered it. It is now yours to the government. All of that is checked across the application, right? So the original order and what they deliver has to match. If not, a person doesn't go in and say no. This system will say no. We did make this a little bit more fluid for agencies that do not want to use Connexus to place the order because they might already have some type of ordering platform. So we can also do what we call order capture. We still get all the notices. We just do not have the service order details that the agency provided directly to a vendor, but we do get all the data later on when we get a service order completion notice. We do get all of the lines that was purchased, that was on that purchase order. That's what the vendor's telling us what was purchased. And this is very important because this impacts inventory. So in inventory, you have items that are non-recurring charges, monthly recurring charges, and usage charges. Being able to look up a telephone number and say, oh, wait a minute, I think I ordered 202-555-1212. How do I then check to see if, this has been ordered, or it needs to be billed to one funding line, where is it being billed to, etc. They could just go into Connexus and look that line up, and it will show them it was ordered on this date, and we instructed the vendor to bill it to this funding source, and they can actually track that order. They can then go back to the vendor and say, wait a minute, we told you this, you fulfilled it, why aren't you doing it? Right? So it gives an audit perspective as well. But really what's really important about inventory, and we have never done this until now, is usually at the end of the contract, agencies and the vendors go back and try to reconcile the inventory, and after 10, 15 years, things are probably going to change. Well, in the future, only inventory can be changed by order activity. Inventory cannot be changed without an order activity. We do an inventory reconciliation with the vendor on a monthly basis. So we are no longer waiting for 10 or 15 years to reconcile inventory. It happens monthly. And that's very important to the next topic, which is the billing capabilities. When we receive billing under the new EIS, under the new contract, it is completely revolutionary. They provide a billing file, which are debits, and they're providing a credit file to show adjustments, and they're providing a detailed tax record. And we literally take those files on every single line and we match them up against inventory and what was ordered. And we look at the very specific service periods, the months that they're billing for, and we say, can this item be paid or not? And Connexus validates it using the calculations set in the contract, and we validate it down to the 6th decimal point. That is a major change. And the GSA's contracting support team, they knew that we needed to do something different in the future than we did in the past, which is we needed to be able to no pay by line item. If we no paid because an invoice was inaccurate, we basically never pay another invoice ever again. So past history, we always paid and then we chased the credit. We no longer need to do that. Connexus can tell you what to pay and what not to pay. And then the contracting officer or the contracting officer representative can agree to that and choose to pay specific line items versus paying all the line items. So now it's up to the vendor to bill those items that if the government said not to pay, it is now up to the vendor to rebill those items to get paid for those items. That means that some items are going to be paid and some are not going to be paid. Well, now we have a challenge or an opportunity focused around how do we keep track of what the vendor can bill for us, because now that we're not paying it, we need to carry the accruals forward. Connexus can help with that. Connexus tracks every transaction by month, everything that can be billed in a month that we know of. We keep track of that, and we can actually tell you in an accrual what your next month's invoice is expected to be. And this is this is a big change because normally we only know what we have this month. We never really took into consideration things that we did not pay that they're going to have to pay for, or things that the vendors didn't bill at all and they're going to come back and back bill us 2 months later, 3 months later. So now Connexus keeps track of that. Connexus knows what taxes and surcharges are allowable, but we cannot forecast how much they're going to be. The other thing that Connexus can forecast is usage, but only based upon past usage. So if a new usage item is entered, we can't forecast the usage amount for the future until that service has actually been used. But non-recurring charges, monthly recurring charges, those contract numbers, they're awarded, the prices are awarded, they have to be billed by those. And the last one, I spoke about financials, and that's kind of what I'm referring to. Is it's all interrelated. Billing and financials, it's all interrelated. It tracks with disputes. Connexus can initiate disputes with the contractors, and the contractors then can follow up and close out disputes. Connexus will close them out when it gets the appropriate credit if needed. And then reporting, Connexus, since it collects such a mass amount of data, there can be business intelligence, different types of reports that can be run out of Connexus to make it usable for any agency to be able to do analytics and try an attempt to better their network or transform their network. Connexus, we usually when we give demos, there can be anywhere from an hour for a very high level, and they can go to 4 hours. We tend to cut it off after 4 hours and then do additional meetings. It depends on the agency and what they want to use Connexus for. If you would like to, the workshops are going to be held in this room. If you would like to request training or you have additional questions, comments, please email Connexus at gsa.gov, and it's there on the screen. So again, if you have any questions or comments, please email Connexus at gsa.gov. And thank you very much, and have a great day. And I'm going to introduce Chris Urie. He's going to be going over the solicitation assist tool. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Chris Urie, and I'm a IT specialist and solutions engineer with the Office of Telecommunication Services Solutions Development Division. I primarily support the EIS contract by providing agencies with technical, modernization, acquisition, and strategic guidance. Next, we're going to talk about a tool that many agencies across the government have already been using to prepare EIS solicitation packages. We'll briefly discuss what the tool is, what it creates, how it can help your agency speed up the process of writing a solicitation, and how your agency can benefit from this tool. The Solicitation Assistance Tool, or SAT, was originally developed to help agencies create solicitation documents for the networks contract. Over the years, the tool has been regularly updated and is now focused on supporting agencies using the EIS contract. The SAT uses a form-based wizard-like interface to collect agency requirements such as services, periods of performance, contract type, and other details. All of these details are used to create a customized statement of work or statement of objectives, statement of objectives, easy for me to say, document. The tool outputs a fully formatted Microsoft Word document that is organized with uniform contract format sections B through M. The sections include text that was written by EIS contracting officers and technical experts specifically for use when defining EIS solicitations. We feel that the use of standard descriptors and predefined task order language not only helps the agency quickly and easily define requirements, but it also assists the contractors to prepare quality proposals. The document also includes best practice guidance and suggestions to guide the agency to further customize and edit the document to describe their individual requirements. We even include a price workbook template and a service location template for agencies to add inventory and locations. Recently, the SAT has been enhanced to add additional types of solicitation templates. Of course, we can use the tool to create a SOW with well-defined prescriptive requirements, which is great when an agency knows exactly what services they are acquiring. But now, we can also define requirements in an objective-based format and create a SOO, statement of objectives, for agencies that know where they want to go, but aren't exactly sure of all the services and CLINs required to get there. This is great when an agency would like to rely on contractors to propose solutions to meet agency goals. We have also created a middle approach that we call a hybrid SOW-SOO that includes both prescriptive or SOW-like requirements along with objective-based goals that are open to the contractors proposing solutions all together in one document. For agencies interested in defining requirements in a more open-ended and objective-based format, we have predefined a handful of goals that are available as a starting point for agency. We've put thought into some of the associated services and performance metrics that may apply to agencies wishing to modernize or transform their infrastructure services. Some of those goals include an agency wishing to modernize their data network or modernize their voice communication services or modernize to unified communications, perhaps interested in transforming to managed network services or embracing managed security services. We even have one for involving the WAN to a software-defined wide area network or SD-WAN, and even to migrate to software as a service or SaaS, cloud services. Our goal during a SAT session is to create a solicitation template that's about 80% complete. That means that the agency must still edit and customize the Word document that we generate. Here are some of the most common areas that agencies need to focus on when editing their solicitation document. In Section C, the agency will define all of their technical requirements based on service or objective. In Section J, we have an attachment of a price workbook that is already in a template form, and we have even a quick start way to bring in your existing GSA inventory using the service location workbook, which is another attachment in Section J. These two workbooks in Section J are provided as a template for an agency to quickly define their inventory and service locations for a contractor to use when proposing proposing services in response to the solicitation. Of course, an agency will want to take further look at Section L, where we talk about the detailed instructions for technical and price proposals. And then in Section M is the evaluation criteria that the agency will be using for technical and price evaluations. Of course, we do provide a starting point for those. You can see on the right side of the screen where I've put a little screenshot of some of the suggested technical evaluation criteria. We have tried to make kind of an all-encompassing list of evaluation factors that are being proposed that an agency may or may not wish to use. And so at this point, it would be fairly easy for an agency to review those suggested sub-factors and identify if maybe some of them don't apply to their requirements and add, edit, remove, modify them as they see fit to meet their agency needs. Of course, we want to help your agency get a jump start on any EIS solicitations that you may need to create. This tool is expert-driven. It's done in a consultative session with technical experts from GSA. In order to get started, please reach out to your GSA agency manager, which can be looked up on the GSA website if you don't already know your agency manager. The link is provided here on the slide that will take you directly to a page that you can enter your agency name and see the contact information of the agency manager assigned to work with your agency. Your agency manager will assist you in completing a pre-session questionnaire, which will help us by reviewing your technical requirements and acquisition strategy. And of course, it's best to assemble your team to ensure your SAT session is successful. Bringing your project manager and contracting officer, the contracting officer representative, and any other associated subject matter experts along with your GSA agency manager to the SAT session will help to ensure that we're able to define all of your requirements correctly and produce a high quality template for your agency to use. So please reach out to your agency manager to get started with the SAT session. Thank you for your time today, and I hope that you've found this session helpful in understanding some of the tools that GSA has available for use with the EIS contract. Thank you. Have a great day.